The past month has been hell. 2 to 3 months ago, I was at peak motivation. I was getting up early, I was knocking out code, the game was coming to life, but then the crippling anxiety of pursuing a career as an indie developer kicked in. Production slowed down and motivation was on the floor. But even through all the lows, the last stop on this train is a full Steam release, so we can't stop here. The goal last month was to prepare the game for a prototype build that I could test internally. Then after cleaning it up, I'll share with others. This forced me to do something which I have never done for this game, and that's actually completing the core game loop. This means getting all the features in place to have a functional game even if it's not pretty. Pushing for a prototype and setting a deadline allowed me to stop hyper-focusing on just the combat system and start pushing the framework for every other piece of the game. This includes menu functionality, unit progression, and relic creation. I decided to start with one of my least favorite things to do, and that is UI and menu functionality. I started by creating a main menu where players can select their characters before they start their run. Here, players can select up to 3 units, choose their upgrade path, and proceed into the stage select. After choosing a stage, players are thrusted right into battle. The next menu that needed some work was the level up screen. Not because it didn't exist, but because it was buggy as hell. And it wasn't the "oh, they'll never notice it" kind of bug, it was the "I just went up 3 levels" kind of bug. The short answer as to why this is happening is because the line of code that updated the UI was basically running twice. Once when the EXP bar animations were playing, and again when you would press a button to skip the animations. That effectively caused the player to gain double EXP. However, the most frustrating bug that I spent 3 days on was trying to get the level up stat increases to work properly. No matter how many levels I gained, I noticed that the game would never actually change your stats. I tried numerous things, but by the 3rd day of debugging this, I was losing my mind. And just as I reeled back to punch my monitor, I realized what the problem was. At the end of every battle, I reset all of the unit stats back to their base values to remove any stat manipulations that occurred during battle. But the stat reset happens after the level up sequence. So the units would level up, gain stat increases, then have their stats reset back to their base values. It sounds almost obvious when you're being told the root cause, but in the moment I was losing my mind. So I just switched them around. The values reset first, then the unit levels up and maintains their stats. So with that bug out of the way, the last notable thing I worked on last month was the progression system. When we were first developing the progression, we thought of a system where each unit could have 3 different paths they could spec into. And depending on which path you chose, you could create different builds with varying stats and skills. Well, after thinking about it for a while, I realized that players would probably just pump all their points into one tree, since the reward for completing the tree was pretty big. So instead, I thought it would be best to streamline progression by locking players into a path at the start of the run, but making each path have its own set of skills, traits, and passives to really help differentiate them and create different gameplay experiences. Maybe in the future we'll play around with opening it up again and see how that feels. So that covers some of the technical highlights for the month. But there's always 2 parts of game development. There's the game, and there's the idiot making the game. Let's talk about this guy. Lately, it's been a serious drag to get this game done. Unfortunately, I've been having a lack of motivation and a lack of confidence in the project that is holding me back. However, as much as this sucks, this feeling isn't new to me. I've been here before, many times, several times a year, for the past 5 years. There are 2 things I've learned throughout the years. 1, lack of motivation is natural. It's a cycle. You'll have 1 month where you're up, and you'll have 1 month where you're down. But no matter how you feel, you have to keep showing up and you have to keep pushing forward. The feeling is temporary and you'll get back to normal if you continue to make constant progress towards your goal. The second thing time has taught me is that the lack of confidence usually comes from something you're unhappy with in your project. To help solve this issue, you need to take an honest look at your project. Identify what's wrong, meditate on it, then tackle it head on. Once you get over that hurdle, you'll feel encouraged to work again and you'll be back on the grind. So for me personally, the issue I've been having recently with the game is that it looks like a game, it sounds like a game, but it doesn't feel like a game. It feels like all the pieces are there, but they're just not tuned or balanced yet. It feels like things are loosely stitched together, like it wants to be a game, but it just isn't one quite yet. So in order to tackle this problem, I'm committing to completing the game loop. I'm putting all the pieces together so I can do some serious playtesting and start honing in on some of the core design choices. Because the issue isn't that I don't have the ingredients for the game, it's that I'm still learning how to be a chef and I need to let the game cook. But again, I've felt and overcome these emotions of doubt and uncertainty before, except it wasn't so much about game design, but more about the game's art. Early in development, I was really caught up in finding an artistic direction for the game, and it was an on and off process of trying different styles and techniques that took well over a year to develop. So I had to remind myself that I spent a year just on art. It was foolish of me to think that I'd craft an entire game's design in just 3 months. Games take time, a lot of time, and I need to respect and plan for that. So because of that, I decided to loosen up a bit. I reminded myself not to stress over deadlines just to push a product to market. Instead, I should focus on making a good game. Of course, I don't have infinite time, and I'm very conscious of that. But adjusting the timing to add an extra 3 to 4 months to the timeline will in the long run lead to a better product. If you enjoyed today's content, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It's always appreciated. Additionally, you can wishlist Project Bloom on Steam. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.